In this video, we are going to look at the structural features of a typical vertebra using the thoracic vertebrae as an example. In the video handout, please refer to the diagrams, and I suggest that you annotate these as we proceed through the video. The diagrams represent the superior view and lateral view of a typical vertebra. On the lateral view, this is the anterior aspect of the vertebra, this is posterior, and we can also see the superior and inferior aspects of the vertebra. On the superior view, this is anterior, and here we have posterior. If we start anteriorly, the first structure that we can identify is the vertebral body, which is a large structure composed of cancellous bone surrounded by compact, dense bone. The vertebral body is designed for weight bearing and support, and when we articulate adjacent vertebral bodies, there is an intervening intervertebral disc at which there is a small amount of movement, which enables us to move the vertebral column. If we move posteriorly from the vertebral body, we next come to the pedicles, which are the first part of the vertebral arch. Continuing from the pedicles, we come to thin plates of bone known as the laminae, and we have a lamina both on the left and the right hand sides of the vertebra. These laminae unite posteriorly to form the spinous process, which is one of 7 processes that we find on the typical vertebra. The spinous process provides a large surface area of attachment for muscles and ligaments. The other processes that we see coming from the vertebral arch are the 2 transverse processes, one on the left and one on the right. And like the spinous processes, these are designed primarily for the attachment of muscles and ligaments. But as we'll see later when we look at the different regions, in the thoracic region, they are also there for the articulation of the ribs. The final processes that we can see in the vertebra are the 2 superior articular processes. On the lateral view, you're just seeing one of those superior articular processes. And these superior articular processes have a facet on their surface which is covered by hyaline articular cartilage. And these superior articular processes will articulate with the inferior articular processes of the vertebra above to form the zygapophyseal or facet joints, which create motion in the vertebral column. So on this lateral view of our typical vertebra, we can see the inferior articular process here. Again, there's 2, one on the left and one on the right. And like the superior articular processes, they contain a facet surface which is covered by hyaline articular cartilage, and this is the actual part that forms the plain synovial joints of the zygapophyseal or facet joints. The final structure that we see on all vertebrae, or all typical vertebrae, is the vertebral foramen, which you can see is bordered by the vertebral body anteriorly, and then laterally and posteriorly it's surrounded by the pedicles on the left and the right, and the laminae posteriorly that form the vertebral arch. And this vertebral foramen surrounds and protects the spinal cord. When we articulate or join up the vertebrae, we can see the intervertebral disc located between the vertebral bodies that allows movement but is also there for shock absorption and weight bearing. The other articulation that we mentioned between the superior and inferior articular facets of adjacent articular processes is the zygapophyseal or facet joint, a synovial plane joint that allows gliding movements between the vertebrae. And when we articulate 2 adjacent vertebrae together, we create another foramen, which is called the intervertebral foramen. So it's between 2 vertebrae. And this foramen surrounds and protects the spinal nerves as they pass out from the spinal cord. Thank you very much.